Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to our August 15th, 2024 regular council meeting. Hope your summer's going well. I'm going to start off here with the call meeting's order, and I'm going to start off with the land acknowledgement. We respectfully acknowledge that the township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen is located on the Treaty 20 Mississauga territory of the Mississauga and Chippewa nations, collectively known as the Williams Treaties First Nations, which includes Curve Lake, Hiawatha, Alderville, Gugog Island, Rama, Beausoleil, and Georgina Island First Nations. The Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen respectfully acknowledges that the Williams Treaty First Nations are the stewards and caretakers of the lands and waters in perpetuity, and that they continue to maintain this responsibility to ensure their health and integrity for the generations to come. I'll move on to ask everyone, please turn your cell phones off or place them on vibrate so it doesn't disturb the meeting. And I'll remind council of declaration of community interest if it arises. You can declare it then. Or if you don't now, declare it now. But we have minutes here from the regular council meeting July 16th and a special council meeting with regards to the ward system on July 16th. Hold in order. I'll look for a motion that we receive those minutes. Okay, moved by Councillor Doherty, seconded by Deputy Mayor Webb. All in favor? And that's carried. All right, so our first item on the agenda is the public zoning bylaw amendment. We have one today, and I want to get a motion to go into the public meeting for the zoning bylaw. Moved by Councillor Clement, seconded by Councillor Flagler. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay. Any person may attend the public meeting and or make verbal or written representation, either in support or in opposition of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment. Please keep your video off and microphone muted during the meeting until I invite comments regarding the planning matter. If a person or public body does not make an oral submission at the public meeting or make written submission to the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen before the proposed zoning bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of the Council of the Corporation of the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen to the Ontario Land Tribunal. If a person or public body does not make an oral submission at the public meeting or make written submission to the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen before the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is passed, the person or public body may not be added to as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal, unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there are reasonable grounds to add the person or public body as a party. If you wish to be notified of the passing of the zoning bylaw amendment, you must make a written request to the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen. With that, I'll turn it over to Arya.
Through you, Mayor Martin. Good morning, members of council. So the purpose and effect of this report is to present for the consideration and requisite approval of council an application to amend the Township of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen's comprehensive zoning bylaw number 1995-42 as amended. And this is in order to permit the redevelopment of a single detached recreational dwelling unit while also introducing certain site-specific regulations. So the recommendation of my report is that, subject to any new information provided here at the public or any public comments received at the public meeting, that the draft bylaw be passed as presented. So just by way of a background, as proposed, the redevelopment of the subject property will consist of a tear and rebuild of the existing recreational dwelling unit to construct a new recreational dwelling unit. Currently, the property is developed with an existing recreational dwelling unit comprising a total gross floor area of approximately 132 square meters. That's roughly around 1,428 square feet, and a multitude of different accessory sheds oriented towards the rear yard. So the property owner is Ed Evans. I believe the Zoom link was sent over to him as well as his agent. Property description is part lot 11, concession 1, and with municipal address of 94 Fire Route 3 in the Belmont ward, and the assessment roll number is 1531-010-003-02900. And the type of planning approval today is under Section 34 of the Planning Act. A site visit was conducted on the subject property on June 29th, 2024. So I'm going to go a little bit into the description of the property and the lands. The subject lands comprise approximately 0.2 hectares, which is roughly 0.49 acres, with frontage being maintained primarily on Crow River. The application indicates a frontage of roughly 29.8 meters, which is 97 feet. Vehicular access to the property is provided through Fire Route 3. The property subject to this application is currently occupied by, again, this is already stated, an existing recreational dwelling unit with approximately 132 square meters of gross floor area. The attached property survey does indicate the presence of two existing accessory frame sheds, one with an attached deck, and both are oriented towards the rear yard of the proposed property. So the current setback from the high watermark to the existing recreational dwelling unit is 21.2 meters, which is roughly 69 feet. The proposed setback from the high watermarks to the new recreational dwelling unit will be maintaining the exact same setback. Pretty much what is being proposed, and I'm going to speak a little bit in relation to this, is most of the cottage is just going to be bumped up and then some storage space added below for basement purposes. So the subject property is currently zoned seasonal residential, and it maintains the minimum required frontage and acreage requirements under the corresponding zone. As the allocation of lot coverage is being pushed or it's being increased slightly, a vast majority of the property will be still maintained in its natural state, as well as the lot coverage is not being pushed above what is the allocated requirement, which is 15% in the seasonal. So just a little bit on the history of the property. The current owners purchased the property over in 2015, and the property has a sale history dating back to 1972. MPAC data does reflect the fact that the existing dwelling unit was constructed in 1972, which is predating the township's first comprehensive zoning bylaw, which was in 1974. And again, just reiterating, the applicants are requesting permission to redevelop the subject property into a new recreational dwelling unit. Again, the structure is going to be bumped up. I mean, it's dependent on whether or not the foundation is sound. Sometimes the bumping up can happen with the existing structure. Sometimes an entire tear and rebuild is required. So in this case, we're going to identify it as a tear and rebuild for the purposes of this application, and they're bumping it up to add some storage space below. So township planning staff have conducted a planning review of the subject application, and we are satisfied that the provincial policies being met, as well as the county official plans policies being adhered to. I'm going to speak a little bit in relation to the township's official plan. The subject property is currently designated shoreline in our OP, and the shoreline designation recognizes permanent and recreational dwelling units as permitted uses. Furthermore, all development in the shoreline designation are required to incorporate a 30-meter buffer from the high water mark, or the shoreline, quote unquote, of our lakes and water bodies. In certain circumstances where the lot is too small, there are instances where one can amend the zoning bylaw to permit development within the 30-meter setback, and in some situations an EIS will be required. In this particular property, an EIS, which is an environmental impact study, was required because there was provincially significant wetlands that were adjacent to the property, and therefore the assessment was required, and there was a trigger under the official plan policy. So basically, there were no issues or concerns identified in the EIS, and therefore, as a result of the conclusion of the report, it is the township's planning opinion that the policies of the official plan or the local official plan are being met. And finally, the zoning bylaw, and according to Schedule A1 of bylaw number 1995-42 as amended, the subject property is currently zoned seasonal residential. If approved, the application will serve to rezone the subject lands to a special district 284, which again, this is just a site-specific amendment. That's what's being reflected in the special district. So therefore, following a review and assessment of the prevailing land use planning policies, it is the township's planning opinion that the application conforms to the growth plan, the county's official plan, the township's local official plan, as well as the zoning, and is consistent with provincial policies. And that concludes my.
Okay, thank you, Arya. All right, then, so the process here is I'll be asking 3 times anybody wishing to speak in opposition of this application, followed by anybody wishing to speak in favor. So for the first time, is there anybody wishing to speak in opposition of this application? We do have quite a few online, so if they put their hand up in the room, it's second time, anybody wishing to speak in opposition? Third time, anybody wishing to speak in opposition? Is there anybody wishing to speak in favor of this application? Is the applicant here?
Yes, I'm Justine Evans, the owner, and my husband's also on the line, so we're in favor.
Okay, thank you. All right, is there anybody else wishing to speak in favor? Third time, anybody wishing to speak in favor? All right, with that, I'll open it up to council. Is there any questions? Comments?
Pretty straightforward. I'd make a motion that we accept the recommendation of the planner to approve.
Okay, so the recommendation is moved by the deputy mayor and seconded by Councillor Doherty. All in favor? And that's carried. And that's all we have for zoning bylaw. So I'll look for a motion to go out of the public meeting, moved by Deputy Mayor Webb, seconded by Councillor Clement. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, so with that, we'll move into delegations. And our first delegation here is Bill Lett with Unity Design. Welcome, Bill. Get set up here. Yeah. Is this working? Yeah. Just push the button there, Bill. Oh, there you go. The red light's on.
Perfect. Mayor Martin, Council, thank you for the opportunity to come and speak to you today and give you some updates on some of the capital projects for the municipality. I've been asked to come and speak to, if we go to the agenda slide, please, next slide. The recreation park, phase 1, Old Town Hall, and a community center update. So the first piece is the recreation park, if we can go to the next slide, and specifically phase 1. So in late May, we provided some documentation on the potential for phasing of the recreation park and what that could look like. We presented a 3-phase option. With phase 1, this is from that presentation that we did. It was June 4th. Phase 1 being 1 baseball diamond, and then the infrastructure for the park. So parking, some of the stormwater management, and some hardscaping. Next slide. This was the high level order of magnitude cost that we anticipated for the project that we presented on June 4th. So this is the same slide that was part of the council package for that council presentation. So the baseball diamond at $1.1 million, the infrastructure for the park we had estimated at about 1.5 for a total construction cost of 2.6. And a total project cost of about 2.9. Understanding obviously that no design work had been done to date, and these were very high level numbers. Since that presentation, staff reached out and asked if we could provide a further breakdown of these numbers, so that council could better understand how we came to these numbers. So I'm hoping that all of council got the PDF that was created, as well as the slide deck. If we go to the next slide, basically we have broken these costs down into construction costs. So the actual hard construction costs, and then the anticipated soft costs as well for the project. Soft costs being things like fees and permits and all of those things. So I can basically the general work here that we presented is that there would be site preparation, there would be the infrastructure put in for well and septic. The baseball diamond obviously needs to have irrigation in order to keep it alive through the summer season. So the well is important for that aspect. Putting in the electrical services, so a transformer and panel, creating a small building to put these services in. So we're thinking a 10 by 10 building that would be associated, the gravel parking lot, the gravel walkways to get from the parking lot to the ball diamond. We know the site is sloping and that we may need some retaining walls, so we've put in an allowance for the retaining walls. And then topsoil costs and sodding costs for everything outside of the diamond. So there's two sets of sodding costs that we're showing in here, one in the diamond and one outside the diamond. So that gets us to just around $1 million for that piece of the scope. And then if we go to the next slide, the diamond itself is broken down into these categories. So the clay infield, the clay warming track, topsoil, sodding, the fencing, all of the foul line elements and posts, the dugouts, players' benches, the bleachers, sideline benches, and then the irrigation that I was talking about earlier. We have the lighting in there, which was a discussion point at the last council meeting on June 4th. And then the batting cages, which gets us to $1.1 million. And then lastly, if we go to the next slide, we get a subtotal of construction cost of $2.2 million. We add a 15% contingency because this is a high level estimate. There's a lot that we don't know because design work hasn't happened in earnest yet. So it's proper practice and cost consulting to carry an allowance, which gets smaller and smaller as more detail is done on the project. So that gets us to a total construction cost of around $2.6 million. And then we add the soft costs to that. So consulting fees, we've put an allowance of 10% for that. The studies and reports, so these are things that are already underway. There's a lot of due diligence underway right now. So environmental site assessments, functional servicing reports, all these different things. We've put in an allowance for equipment. There's going to be elements that we need, like something to cut the grass and all of these things that you're going to want to store there. So it's basically anything in the park that if you turn the park upside down and shake it will fall. So we've put an allowance for some legal costs, and then we've put an allowance for permits as well. In some cases, municipalities charge themselves for permitting, and in some cases they don't. So in this case, we thought it was prudent to show some allowance for permitting, which gets us to total soft costs of about $500,000. And that's where we came up with the total project cost of in and around $3 million. So I'm happy to stop here and take questions. Ultimately, what I would say is it would be great if we could come away with at some point, not necessarily during this meeting, but with an overall project budget that council supports. And then we can work with staff within that budget to come up with a solution for the park. But you now have a wholesome understanding of how we got to that number.
Thanks, Bill. And yeah, and that'll be the next part as far as trying to figure out, like it'll go to staff to try and figure out where we could find some of this money. These numbers are a bonus for us because we need to understand what we're looking at.
Absolutely.
So this says it all, but that being said, with the way you've laid it out here, some of the magnitude of costs, I'm sure there's things there that we'll be able to look at that we might be able to eliminate to help knock the price down. But with everything that's here now, you know, we are able to go out for grants and things like that because we have this part of the work done. So it's good that way. But I'll open up to council for any questions with regards to the ball diamond. Deputy Mayor Webb.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor, I was just gonna comment. So there probably are a few things here on these lists, Bill, that obviously when we start working with staff, we can pick off. Some of them might be duplicate things too. I was just wondering, I don't know if Josh is online. Do we, like I saw irrigation in there for it. Like, do we have an irrigation system for the baseball field here now? The stuff like that possibly is stuff we could possibly take out if we're not using it on this baseball field. You know, why would we need it on those fields out there?
And that's part of the thing, I think, with the magnitude that we'll be able to whittle down, because I think there is things that even if we have to rough it in, we may not be able to do the whole thing, but we can kind of get the dirty part out of the way if we had to try and cut some of the costs. But yeah, I think that's what we're gonna have to do moving forward is, you know, what's the priority and what isn't to get this moving.
Yeah, just sorry, just to
Yeah.
finish off, just amazing for, I don't know if people are watching online, but for a baseball field with some dugouts, right? $3 million, like not too long ago, you probably could have built a sports center with a couple of hockey rinks inside, right, Bill? So
Yeah.
that's how things have changed.
It has changed
Yeah.
drastically.
Thank you very much for the presentation.
And the whole idea here is to complement our other ball diamond, which, you know, there's a misconception out there that it's replacing it. It's not replacing it. It's to complement what we have because we have such a need for baseball in this community. So this would just add to it. Okay. Any other questions with this part? All right, Bill? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Through you, Mayor Martin. This is just phase one, correct?
Yeah.
So the other phases, when you gave out that report months ago, that's the extra cost for phase two, phase three, right?
Yeah, through you, Mayor, that is correct. We did provide some high level numbers that we anticipated for the subsequent phases for the pickleball courts and the tennis courts, et cetera. We are doing, pickleball seems to be the popular thing these days, and we are doing a series of pickleball courts across the province. So we've got really accurate costing on those right now. And obviously in your neighboring municipality, it seems to be the topic du jour. That is, yeah, those numbers were in the report back on June 4th.
Okay, thank you.
All right then. Timeline for this, I guess it's been like,
I'll ask.
yeah, you will.
Yeah, that's it. Through you, Mayor Martin, I'll just ask Bill, thank you for the presentation and for the detail. And obviously, we need to take these numbers back and have a look. I just want to get your sense, Bill, in working with these projects, what sort of a timeline would we be looking at to get this done?
Sure, through you, Mayor Martin, to the CAO. At this point, we had engaged consultants to give us proposals based on the phase one scope after the last meeting. It sounds like that's changing, so we've kind of put them on hold. We would need to re-engage once we have a budget for and a scope for this project so that we can get accurate costs and move into a contract, which then would take us through a design phase. At this point, we're in the middle of August. I would anticipate, you know, once a decision is made, we would need time to work through the design phase, come back and get approvals. I know how important this project is for council, so I'm assuming once we finish the preliminary design, we would come back to council and present that along with the Class C cost estimate. And then we would work into the contract documents or the construction documents to build it. I would hope that we could move forward so that we could tender this ideally in December. It's always the best time to tender this type of work. Contractors are looking for work for the new season. The work could start first thing in the spring. With construction would not take long, but what we do need to understand is that any baseball diamond requires a 2-month period of settling, regrading, and for the sod to take. And so that's really when you discuss the irrigation, that's really when we need the irrigation as well. So if we don't have irrigation, that's certainly an option. We don't have to put in the well or the irrigation, but that would require daily watering of the diamond for at least a 2-month period to get it rooted properly for use. So there are other capital costs that would have to happen if we chose to delete part of the scope of work. But ideally, this would be operational for summer 2025.
Okay. All right.
Okay, Old Town Hall is the next slide. Leave. Yes, and one more.
No, we did.
So since we last came and talked about what potential town hall could have, we even showed you some examples of other similar type buildings that had gone through renovations. Staff has come back and said that council's direction is just to look at the cost to restore the building and make it safe and accessible. So we put together a shopping list of reports that would need to be looked at in order to understand more wholesomely what needs to happen to the building for that to happen. But fundamentally, if we wanted to just take this in smaller chunks and smaller phases, what we would recommend first is that we have a structural review done of the building. We engaged with Accent Building Sciences, who did the previous study work on the building. They did 2 previous reports for council on the building, but they did not do a structural review of the building. And so we're recommending that council approve $8,500 plus HST to move forward with a structural review, because obviously we want to make sure that before we go and spend any more money, that the structure of the building is adequate. And as an example, we have the reason why we're recommending this is we did some work for a previous municipality, and we had a structural review done, and the review showed that the building wasn't even capable of doing what it was doing at the time that we had the review, and the building had to be condemned, and the municipality ended up selling it. So we're recommending this as a first phase, and then we could come back to council with a second phase once we have that report.
So the other 2 reports, there was things around structure in some of
There were.
like with the ties in the ceiling, things like that. So I thought that was they must have looked at some of the structure.
They did a little bit, but they want to come back, and we're under a new code now as well. So any work that we have to do, the code has changed from a structural standpoint since the last report was done.
Right. Okay, so, yeah, and like I say, these numbers that you're throwing at us today is something we're gonna have to probably.
Of course.
For the staff to find.
And then lastly, the community.
There, Council Tory.
Sorry.
Mayor, if we give instructions to do the structural assessment, how long does it take?
Accent are prepared to start within a few weeks, and it would probably, I would guess, about 6 weeks from start to finish.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Right.
Oh, sorry, we got they're popping up here, so.
All right, Bill. So adding on to Jerry's question, so anything that they looked at before will be looked at and included again,
That is correct.
plus the basement, like the basement's the big thing, right? Stone walls.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Martin. Yeah, the basement is the big thing, the stone
Right.
walls. So it would be a wholesome structural review to look at the whole building and what it's capable of, yes.
Okay, thanks.
Any other questions? Yeah, carry on.
Okay. So just to give you an update on the community center, things are moving forward quickly now. The fees were established for the project. The contract has been signed. Because of the complexity of the project and the approach for it, the best construction methodology for this particular project is construction management. So we reviewed that with staff, and they agreed that moving forward under a construction management process would be the way to move this project forward. Fundamentally, what that means is that we enter in, there's a few different types of standardized contracts, construction contracts in Canada. So CCDC 2 is a stipulated sum contract where we do all the drawings and then we go out to tender. Construction management contract is CCDC 5, and that is the same contract that we're doing with the city of Peterborough as an example for their new housing project. I would say about 80% of the work that we have in our office right now is construction management. So what that will allow us to do is move the project faster in order to meet the timeframes for the grant requirements and the spending requirements for the grant. So we're almost complete the construction management RFP. We're ready to give the draft to staff on Monday, is our target. We're just finishing up some of the appendices to go into the construction management RFP that will be released, and then we can bring the construction manager on board and they can start helping strategize how the phasing can work for construction, and the intent would be that we'll start construction in spring.
Okay, so the one part about when I read this start in the spring, the roof needs done like yesterday. Like we have leaks in there and things going on. Is that a part of this construction in the spring for the roof too?
Mayor Martin, it's a great question. So the roof design has been complete. It is done. And so part of the strategy is, could we do that sooner? And we would want the construction manager on board to help look at how we could do that sooner. I think that is an option. Obviously mobilizing to do the roof, we would want to look at a strategy where there wouldn't need to be a demobilization, so that the roof work could then just start into the renovation for the public spaces at the front of the building and the upgrades as well. Because obviously there's added cost to mobilize to do the roof and then demobilize and then remobilize to do the remainder of the work. So we just want to make sure that we're looking at what we call the general conditions, which are all the costs of doing the project. So fencing, porta potties, trailers, all of those things. So that you're not paying twice for that. And that's one of the reasons for bringing the construction manager on board, is to help establish what that looks like and what that strategy is, so that it's most cost effective for the municipality, but we still get the work done as quickly as possible.
Okay, totally understand. I just worry that sometimes you save one way, but with the water leaking in, we're going to pay somewhere else. So that's the thing that we need to understand. So
Yeah, I just gonna ask, is there a time frame to that in terms of like what the scope is to get all that work done with the roof and the lobby and elevator?
Sure. So the intent would be that we would utilize the time between now and the spring to onboard the construction manager, develop the strategy, start construction, start sequential tendering, with the full scope completed from the design standpoint early in the spring, and then full construction ongoing through the spring. And then I would hope that this would be a project that isn't any longer than 10 months. But again, I would want the construction manager to put on the schedule.
Yeah.
When this construction is going on, will we still be able to use the facility? So, because I know we have pickleball and a few things that run over there in the summertime, so would that still be operational or?
Sure, through you, Mayor Martin, that's actually part of what we're writing into the RFP right now, is for the construction manager to put together a plan to keep the building as operational as long as possible, and what that might look like.
Thank you.
and the ball diamond too, because that's another.
Of course.
Yeah.
Through you, Mayor Martin, perhaps you could just expand on number 2, the construction. What is the construction we're talking about at the moment? Because there seems to be some confusion. So it's the roof, the elevator, and the new lobby?
Through you, Mayor Martin, yes, that is the.
That's in its entirety.
Yeah.
I just wanted to bring our Facebook council up to date on that, so that.
There are other elements to the scope. There are other elements to the scope, like there's still some questions around power and whether or not the existing power is adequate. And we did talk to council about that in the last meeting, that we had to do some more research there. There are some other elements in the arena itself that have to be dealt with, that are in the accent building science report for the building as well, that are part of that scope too. But fundamentally, it's the roof, the elevator, and the new vestibule.
Thank you. Thank you for clearing that up. There is people that are worried, so, okay. All right then, so that's everything in.
That is everything.
So there is some numbers there that we have to work out as far as, like, the 8,500 to get things rolling. It doesn't sound like a lot, but there's a bunch of numbers here that I think we're gonna have to refer to staff and see if they can come back with a plan on how we can move forward, possibly by the next meeting. So if that doesn't mess the timelines up too much, I think for today, if we received your delegation and refer to staff on looking at these numbers and how we can move ahead.
I'd make the motion in terms of if we could possibly see if we could get it to the next meeting in September, or at least
Yeah,
one of the meetings in September, because
the next meeting would.
I think both of these things, more so the baseball field than the town hall, but they're kind of time sensitive. If we're gonna get going on the town hall, let's get these studies and stuff going, right? So,
Yeah, I think the next meeting.
so yes, I'll make that motion.
Okay, so that's moved by Deputy Mayor Webb, second by Councillor Flagler. Any other questions or comments? All in favor? And that's carried. Thanks, Bill.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Thanks, Bill. We'll be in touch.
Okay. Nope. Don't forget to hit the button.
All right, our next allegation here is Lori Ritchie, with regards to doctor recruitment. Welcome, Lori.
Good morning, and thank you so much for having me here today. I'm gonna maybe just turn this slide so I can see that screen instead, because my eyes aren't as good as they used to be. Next slide, please. So today I'm here to talk a little bit about a new role that has been created for Peterborough County to provide physician recruitment and retention services to the 8 lower tier townships within Peterborough County. The need was recognized. Historically, recruitment has been shared between the city and county. And it was recognized that somebody dedicated to focus on our beautiful townships was required, particularly in the current state that we are in with the lack of access to primary care. So this new position started in October of 2023. And I do report to the county CAO. However, my relationship is more at the municipal level with the CAOs and the councils within those. And so that's why it's important that I come and speak to you, and hopefully on an annual basis will, if or as required, will come and address council. I do bring 28 years of healthcare experience to the position. 14 of those were in long-term care and 14 were in primary care with the Peterborough Family Health Team. The last 5 years in my position with the Peterborough Health Team, I did do physician recruitment for the city and county of Peterborough. So this is something that is not new to me. And I also have a background in human resources. So recruitment is near and dear to my heart. Next slide, please. So according to the Ontario College of Family Physicians, there are currently 32,000 persons within Peterborough City and County without access to primary care. So it's basically stating that that number is going to be growing over the next number of years and not getting better. And that's for a number of reasons, including if we can go to the next slide, please. So there's a number of reasons, and one is that many physicians are choosing not to go into family medicine due to an increased administrative burden. Thankfully, our provincial government has announced some tactics that are going to be going into place to hopefully lessen that. A lack of team supports, that's not necessarily the case in Peterborough County, as all of our physicians currently belong to the Peterborough Family Health Team, which gives them access to team supports. Their compensation is not keeping pace with inflation. In fact, one physician recently told me that he analyzed his income and he's had a 40% decrease in income compared to 10 years ago when you take inflation into account. And as I mentioned previously, less people are choosing family medicine as a profession. And a large number of our local family physicians and across the province are of the baby boomer age and are choosing to retire. Many are retiring without a replacement because they're just hanging on too long, and COVID pushed a number of them out maybe a few years sooner than they had anticipated. So all of these constraints make the need for a dedicated resource critical for our townships to ensure that at the end of the day, all of our residents have access to primary care. Next slide, please. So since I've been in the position, I've identified a number of challenges that we face as within the 8 townships. So the first is a lack of infrastructure. So many of our townships have grown considerably, and there's only one new medical facility that has been constructed. So as we grow, every 1,500 residents takes one full-time doctor. And full-time physicians like to practice in a group setting, so that's something we need to definitely turn our mind to. Lack of accurate data, we don't really know. That number of 32,000 came from the Ontario College of Family Physicians. They probably took that number from looking at how many people are attached to how many people live there. But who are they and where do they live is important for us to understand where the needs are for new infrastructure. So, and then lack of candidates. So I can post a job and I get zero response. So it's unlike any other position whereby you post it and you get to pick the cream of the crop. In this case, I get a static if I actually get anybody who's even remotely interested in the position. Spousal employment, two persons need to work in today's society. And more than not, our numbers are leaning more towards female family physicians than male. Historically, the female, if the male was the physician, the female may stay home and raise the family. That's not the case anymore. So these persons are coming with professional degrees and careers, and we need to be able to ensure that they find employment. So I had a few physicians who were interested, but I was unable to find employment for their spouse. And so they're not able to come here. Lack of daycare is an issue across the entire county. There's currently 5,500 people on a wait list for licensed daycare. Housing, our housing prices have rocketed. It used to be a selling feature for our townships of the low cost of housing. However, that's not necessarily the same. We're more on an even playing field. And the family health organization, that is what all of our family doctors belong to within Peterborough County, have the ability to say yes or no to adding new physicians into their group. Yes, a physician could set up as a fee for service, but that means they don't have access to the team-based supports of which they love through the family health team. Because to be part of a family health team, you have to belong to a family health organization. Next slide, please. So obviously we need to start looking at solutions for these challenges. The first solution that I'm going to speak about is something that I'm quite passionate about. Historically, recruiters have worked independently and in competition with each other, and we've not shared best practices. We don't know what other communities do to entice persons to come here. And with the crisis the way that it is, I feel any physician who comes to Eastern Ontario is a win for all of us. So I'm currently leading the formation of an Eastern Ontario Physician Recruitment Alliance, whereby we come together and it's a membership based, and our focus is on international recruitment. When I say international recruitment, we're going to be focusing on finding those Canadians or Ontarians that had to leave the province for their medical education. And there's thousands of them that are out there. And currently there is nobody finding them saying, hey, we want you to come to our community, and working with them to help them integrate back in. There are also a number of countries that have reciprocal agreements with Canada or Ontario, and that would be UK, Ireland, Australia, and the United States, and that their medical education is considered the same as ours, and therefore they just need to write the Ontario licensing exam. So we'll be focusing on those areas. This is not something we can do on our own because we can't afford it. We look at the small communities that exist in Eastern Ontario. And then secondly, our main role will also be lobbying. So a collective voice to lobby the provincial and federal government for change, to remove some of the barriers that currently exist with respect to recruitment. I have done some individual lobbying mentioned there on the slide, but I feel it will be so much more powerful to do it as a group. And further to the Eastern Ontario Physician Recruitment Alliance, there is already one in Southern Ontario, and we're looking to create ones in other sections of the province. And then the leaders of all of those alliances will form a provincial body called the Ontario Physician Recruitment Alliance. And again, that voice will be very powerful. I am looking to create an ambassador program within each of the communities, and that's going to be looking for persons who have an interest in being basically a welcoming committee for physicians, both when they're coming to tour your community as well as when they get set up within their community. It's really important that we make the physicians feel that they are an integral part of the community, a valued member, that they have opportunity to connect with other persons of like interests. Their children perhaps maybe play sports, hook them up with people who play sports. My job is to make sure that that they're connected within the medical community, that they have help to deal with some of the administrative issues within their practice. So collectively, recruitment can't be done alone. It is definitely a team sport, and that's where the ambassador program will come into play. We have recently launched a Your Health Matters campaign, and that really is just a tagline for to say that we do care about our residents within Peterborough County. And from that launched a social media accounts where I'll be sharing information on what to do if you don't have access to primary care, working with the individual townships. And we have created a healthcare needs assessment, which is a very simple list that persons can go on if they don't have access to primary care, or if they have to drive too far for that care and wish to have a provider closer to home. There is a provincial list called Healthcare Connect, and that is not something that our local physicians tend to use to take patients. So this list will give me the data that I need to know where the people are, which township they belong to. And then from that, when I do recruit a physician, I can use this list to help build their practice up quickly, because the physician does not get paid until they have patients within their roster. And then lastly, one of the solutions that I'm working on are hosting town halls. It's undecided whether this will be in person or virtual, but the concept is really to give people an update on my position, what my role is, how I'm working within the townships to bring primary care here, to talk about their options that they have in spite of not having a primary care provider, to tell them how they can have their voice heard at a provincial level, and to find out what it is that they are looking for within their communities. Next slide. One of the first things that I undertook was to understand the current state of our existing physicians. There are 18 physicians currently working within Peterborough County. So I conducted a health human resource survey. I'm happy to say that I did have 100% completion on that. You can see from the retiring numbers that we're going to be having, almost 50% leaving within the next 2 to 5 years. So a lot of work needs to take place there. I will be meeting with each one individually to discuss a plan and work with them. Because not only did I talk about when they're going to retire, I've talked about would they take on students, are there other assistance that I can provide, and just really to start building that relationship on an individual level with those physicians. Currently, I'm working on 3 physician vacancies within Peterborough County. We have 1 in Lakefield, 1 in Ashfield-Norwood, 2 for Kinmount, and then there is an NP vacancy in Keene. Also note is that I will be working with the community health center to attract salaried physicians to their community health center, which ideally will also be serving Peterborough County residents. And it is my job to make sure that Peterborough County townships remain on the radar of our newly funded community health center. Next slide, please. So I know these numbers are really small, but this is data that I pull from that healthcare needs assessment on a weekly basis. I checked yesterday, there were 738 residents of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen who are registered on my list or previously had registered on the Ashfield-Norwood list. So that's a fairly significant number. Which speaks to the need for primary care within your community. Next slide. So I've thrown out a lot of information, so I do welcome opportunity to address your questions here today. And again, thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Laurie. And yeah, communication's a big thing here, and I was looking forward to this. And I've known you for a few years, as far as even when Dr. Hartera was doing it way back with the family health team. It seems to be just getting more complicated. It used to be hard enough, but now with all the other things that you're adding to this, it's a really complicated thing to attract doctors. But Deputy Mayor Webb.
Thank you very much for the presentation, Laurie. On the last slide there, I don't know if we can bring it up. Can you explain the difference between the first 2 columns? So one says number of forms completed, and the other one says number of persons seeking care.
Sure, through you, Mayor Martin. So what a person can complete 1 form, and they just simply indicate how many members of their household are seeking care. So it could be under myself, say Lori Ritchie, and I have 4 people in my household, so that's 1 form, 4 persons.
Okay, understand. Thank you for that.
Through you, Mayor Martin, back in April, there was a press release come out saying that the townships all have agreed to something. Could you expand on what we agreed to since you're now arriving here in August? So what did I agree to back in April?
Through you, Mayor Martin. I would think that that would be referring to the work plan for 2024. That was something that was presented to County Council for approval, first through the CAO group and then to County Council. Basically outlined what I was going to be focusing on based upon the role description for my position.
Follow up of the CAOs, I'm confused. You went to the CAOs?
The CAOs provide feedback on the work plan that then was presented to County Council.
Can you help with that, Bob? Do you have anything to add?
No, through you, Mayor Martin, I think Lori has explained it well. The work plan was presented to us, the CAO group. It was then presented to County Council for final approval.
Oh, I'm just confused. CAOs are not elected. You're aware of that. So they don't make decisions for this group.
With due respect, absolutely.
Yeah, okay.
So it was County Council that
Oh,
provided
thank you.
approval to my plan.
And if I may have follow up, you mentioned something, I just need clarity. It said the 738, I believe you said was HBM, but then you segued into Asphodel Norwood. What, I'm not sure what that meant.
Sure, through you, Mayor Martin. Previous to my position, Asphodel Norwood kept a list for patients who were seeking care, and that included people from neighboring townships. So when I created my healthcare needs assessment list, basically they grandfathered taking more names from the neighboring townships, and I have assumed responsibility to that on my list. So the 400 and some that are at the top are on the list that is housed by, to see grandfathered, the very
I couldn't
top
read any
there.
of it. The term's too small.
Yes, yeah, I apologize for that. So basically, anybody who calls now to Asphodel Norwood and says, I'm from Havelock-Belmont-Methuen and I'm seeking a doctor, they connect them with me and I put them on my list. So the people that were first registered with Asphodel Norwood would be the first ones to be placed with the new physician should there be space. And then we will come to my list and start placing patients from there.
Mayor Webb?
I know this might be a hard question to ask, but I see the numbers since we started this in early April. A lot of the communities, with the exception, I think, of Asphodel Norwood, have doubled, some of them tripled, quadrupled. Is this something, you know, like, because this is just a snapshot of, say, the last 3 or 4 months. Can you give some kind of background? Do you see this continuing for another year? Because a lot of these communities are getting what, 10, 15, 20. Some of these are run by a week, another one I see is run per month, but I mean, it's pretty steady, you know, uptick here. So
Yeah, through you, Mayor Martin, and that's where I do need the assistance of the townships to keep promoting this list, to keep it in the public's information that this list does exist. I do see it as an evergreen list because the communities are constantly growing. So those numbers there, the dates vary just because I was off for surgery and nobody was pulling the data. The data was still being collected. So I do try to do it on a weekly basis so I can see if there is like a total fall in numbers. Maybe we need to promote it more. Maybe we're running an ad in a local newspaper or whatever, and we need to kind of see where the uptake is. So I do ask that all members of council and staff do continue to promote the healthcare needs assessment. It's really important that we have accurate data. We can't make decisions about the future without accurate data. So.
sorry, one more question. Are all these people, sorry, when the form's completed, are these people that currently do not have a physician? Is it phrased in terms of, would you like to have a physician, you know, in your community or close to you, but they might have a physician, say, in Peterborough or somewhere else now?
Through you, Mayor Martin. Yeah, that's a combination of both. So I do have that data and I can pull that.
We can break it down into,
yeah.
okay, thank you.
So that's part of that 738. It's the combination then. And is there any cleansing done on these lists? Like, in other words, if a doctor takes somebody, rosters it, do they take them off? And then obviously there are people that expire and transfer out and so on. So it's a cleansed list on a regular basis then?
Correct. Through you, Mayor Martin. It is a fairly new list. It only started in April. So absolutely, because I would be the one. So the Ashford Norwood list is obviously older than that. But my list just started in April. And I would look to do that as I work with physicians to bring on patients. We absolutely would be updating the list, checking with people. I do collect emails. I am able to verify if they do. So as with all data, there would be a plus or minus error.
Any other questions?
That's one through you, Mayor Martin. Havelock numbers seem to be very high. So are you looking for a doctor for the Havelock area? Is that your purpose? And yeah, I just kind of want
Through you, Mayor
to.
Martin, we would need to find a space to put that position and talk about that. But absolutely, when those numbers are getting this high, it is a concern for sure. That we do need to start looking seriously about access to primary care for the residents of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen.
Okay, so going forward, you are looking for a doctor for our area and presumably we're looking for a spot for a doctor. Now, in my understanding of healthcare, it is already paid for by the, I guess, federal government. I'm not sure. I just know my healthcare is free. So not really though, because it is through your taxes. So what is the income that we are paying or what the government is paying? Or are they now cutting that income in half and expecting the municipalities to come up with that difference?
Through you, Mayor Martin, the funding, the payments system for physicians is very complicated. It depends what type of model that they belong into. But what is happening is that their income has not kept pace. And, you know, a family physician working full-time would be lucky to net $200,000. Their salary's not been cut. It just hasn't been increased commensurate to other expenses because they are treated as independent business persons and they need to pay their own rent, they need to pay their own staff, they need to pay their own overhead, and that can be upwards of 30% of their salary. And so, yes, it is funded and it is funded by the provincial government.
Okay, thank you.
So that's the part about the how it's getting complicated because everybody's offering different things, whether it's housing, like you say, jobs, daycare, whatever. There's all kinds of things coming into it now and trying to make up for the difference in payments.
Through you, Mayor Martin, if I may just add that part of this alliance and across the province is again, creating a database or repository of what different communities offer, because again, you know, it is getting out of hand and we need to be able to say this community's been successful and they haven't offered these large incentives or whatever it may be. So, you know, data again is lacking in that area as well. So we're hopeful that, you know, we're starting to gather that data that will help us come together as a province or as an area to say, okay, you know, we can't afford this. That's downloading on municipalities. We can't afford it. So we need to, you know, collectively work together instead of in competition with each other.
And that's always been to try and create a fair playing field. The province needs to know about that stuff. So Councilor Doherty and then Deputy Mayor Martin.
It's the new capital gains that was come in the 25th of June. There was a lot of buzz about it from the family position. Have we seen any fallout from that, or is it too early, Laurie, to assess that?
Through you, Mayor Martin, unfortunately, I cannot speak to that, but I do know that it was another pin in the chest for them. And there's been many changes to the incorporation laws and the write-offs and all of that that have negatively impacted family physicians.
Deputy Mayor.
Yeah, no, I just wanted to make a point about, in terms of, offering these doctors, whether it be jobs or housing or whatnot to come to your communities. I understand where that's coming from and, you know, we're all trying to solve a solution. What I don't want to see is, and I think where this could be heading, we're not there yet, but pitting these communities against each other in a bidding war, right? In terms of, and whoever has the most money or whoever's willing to put up the most money is gonna get the services, and that's not the kind of service, at least that I'd like to, give to our residents. And I don't think a lot of them would like that either. I think us as elected officials need to, maybe look at different avenues to do this instead of, as I said, putting one community against another. So
For sure, and through you, Mayor Martin, and that's the other advantage of coming together, as I mentioned, with the Eastern Ontario physician recruiters. I'm a true believer that throwing large buckets of money does not work. There will be data soon to say that those people, as soon as their return of service contract is fulfilled, they leave. That is not what we want. We want people who want to come, settle, raise their families, stay here for 30 years. Those are the type of persons that we want, and those are the type of persons that I will be seeking. And we need to be creative in doing other things to help them stay within the community. So a few examples that I have initiated since being in the position is I have secured funding through the county to pay 1 year of a program called Doctor Care. Doctor Care is a program that analyzes billings, and the billings is very, very complicated, and they don't get trained properly on it. So they're leaving money off the table. So this program is proven to increase earnings by $25,000 to $35,000 annually, but yet the subscription cost is $4,200. So to me, that's a fantastic return on investment. That physician will learn throughout that year how to maximize their billing and can choose to carry on a subscription or not, depending on what they learn. The other thing that I have implemented is a paid physician mentorship program, whereby physicians new to the community can actually access physicians without feeling that, physicians are taught that they should know everything. Well, they don't. And especially when they come to a new community. So being comfortable to reach out to somebody who is there to help, who is going to be fairly compensated, so you don't feel that you're bothering that person. So I've set up a small mentorship pot for each new physician that comes to the community. So those are the types of things that I'm looking at to differentiate us from the others, with not focusing on the money, but actually giving them true return on investment and making them comfortable within their role.
Okay. Thank you, Lori. If there's no further questions, your number is on here. If council has any questions, they can give you a call and clarify specifics for HBM. It's going to be there's a long road ahead of us to try and straighten this out. And I'm glad to see some of the initiatives that are happening right now. So.
And thank you through you, Mayor. Thank you everybody for your time today. I look forward to coming back on a regular basis as often as you want me. I'm willing to come.
Perfect. Thank you. All right, so I'll look for a motion to receive the delegation. Moved by Deputy Mayor Webb, second by Councillor Doherty. All in favor? And that's carried. Thank you. Our next delegation is Ambrose Moran with regards to the camp on Tarp Bay. Welcome, Ambrose.
Good morning, your partners. Okay. A little touch screen sharing system. Good morning, members of council and staff. On the agenda for the last council meeting, I had submitted a very detailed, clearly documented, illustrated letter stating that there was 3 significant errors in the information that was presented to the Committee of Adjustment and Support of staff approval for the recommendation for a hunt camp on the shores of Jacks Lake. That letter was on the agenda for the July 16th meeting, and the township planner was asked to comment on it. And the reasons I'm here today is to make it clear that the staff rebuttal to this letter in 3 areas is actually wrong. There are differences of opinions, but there's some cases difference of clear facts. So I have some the handout there. By number 1 relates to the property not being on water access or being categorized as water access only. At the public hearing, council was told that the property was water access And in fact, the condition of the approval was that the fire chief issued water access only 911 municipal address. The property in fact has a private road, probably the only private road that I'm aware of on Jack's Lake, accessing the property, which is used by the owner to access his principal cottage on the large holdings of land. So the road to the property, as shown on the GIS mapping on that, the first sheet I gave you, clearly shows that the road goes through this property. Your plan continued to take the position the property is characterized as being accessed by impact. And the impact information, in fact, assigns the property classification to this property as 241 managed forest property vacant land. And yes, there is no assigned 911 road address on typically undeveloped vacant land. So property is not water access, it's in fact road access. The second item, number 2, and there's the page number 2, relates to whether it's in the Peterborough Crown Game Reserve. In my email to your planner dated the 25th of June, I brought to his attention the property is located within the Peterborough Crown Game Reserve. In my letter to this committee of adjustment dated July 3rd, I brought to the members' attention that the property was located in the Peterborough Crown Game Reserve. In fact, I provided a map of it. In the rebuttal to my letter of July at the July 16th CAO meeting, your planner stated they did not know where anybody gets the idea the property is located in the Peterborough Crown Game Reserve. There's nothing on the GIS map. I have already provided a map showing that it was in the game reserve. Planner says he'd worked on lots of applications over many years in Jack's Lake, about 50 applications, and never heard that this game reserve. Where is the mapping? How do we know about this? You can't just have the locals saying it's a game preserve. But the reason Jack's Lake Facebook exploded at the time the notice for this application was sent out was questions being raised on Facebook. How come Havelock-Belmont-Methuen is approving a hunt camp in our game preserve? It's noteworthy that the planning and building department and the council members and visiting Havelock-Belmont-Methuen properties on Jack's Lake need to pass 3 large signs on the boundaries of the Peterborough Game Reserve, one on McCoy Bay Road, one on the Narrows Point Road, and one on the Jack's Lake Road. And that should be on your number 2 list. At the July 16th meeting, council had already sensed there was some solidity in my stating the property within the game reserve. And going forward, there's a need to clarify this, and I agree. The game reserve is an important advocacy accomplishment of myself, and the no hunting is unique in cottage country and is cherished by the benefits of the Jack's Lakers. At this point, if you have much interest in the game reserve, you can look at the website Apsley Watch, and there's the tab on game reserve background. Why is this important? The application, in my view, failed at least one of the tests to be approved as a minor variance. That being the application's desirable and appropriate use of the land. Of course, approving a hunt camp inside the boundaries of a no hunting game reserve is not appropriate use of the land. And of course, you cannot see how it would be desirable for the property owner to get approval for a hunt camp versus a cottage, which is much more likely to be supported, as the hunt camp can only be used 90 days a year and only in hunting season. So what I was saying is the Bagby property proposed the hunt camp is definitely within the location and boundaries of the Peterborough Game Reserve, and the council and staff should be aware of this. The third item, and there's the third page there, act capacity section of Jack's Lake. In the staff rebuttal to my clearly supported by maps that the property was in the act capacity section of Jack's Lake, and despite the staff report presentation at the public meeting saying the opposite, the staff rebuttal on July 16th stated, there was concern that the property is located in the act capacity section of Jack's Lake. I respectfully disagree. About his claim, because the mapping provided by Peterborough GIS department and further provided by M&R The province's mapping do not include anywhere close to that property that is at capacity. The maps I provided on number 3 there are actually posted on the Havelock-Belmont-Methuen website. And the maps, in fact, were included in my appeal to the proposed Havelock-Belmont-Methuen official plan amendment. And that mapping was used to resolve the province's prepared, and that map issued was resolved by the province preparing those maps, resolve that appeal, and clearly defining exactly the boundaries of Sharps Bay. It was embarrassing to having gone through this process, now to ask the province to arbitrate this understanding. And the map that your planner was relying on, which is on the next page, indicates the Rathbun Bay, Williams Bay, Long Bay, and McCoy Bay as being at capacity, and nothing on Sharps Bay. But he says he respectfully disagrees with Mr. Morin. Tuesday this week, John Opana from Ministry of Environment, Climate Change and Parks, who is responsible for the decision on what part of Jack's Lake was at capacity, wrote me, the township has misrepresented the at capacity status. So in conclusion, the property subject to the application has a road, is in the Peterborough Crown Game Reserve, and is in the at capacity section of Jack's Lake. I want to say the council and committee of adjustment members need to get accurate information to make good planning decisions, and the public input should be given appropriate consideration. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ambrose. And yeah, like was referred to before, we don't deal with the Facebook council. It's the Council of Havelock-Belmont-Methuen. They're on their own out there, so we don't.
I'm not part of that society to a great extent.
Yeah, I see you aren't anyway, so you must watch it a little bit. But yeah, so this report that came to us, there's a lot of things around it that you know, staff will have a chance to rebut any of the comments that you've made today. But for today, I think it'll give our staff a chance to look into some things that you're referring to here and come back with a report on this. But it was a pretty thorough report that we had from our planner, and most of these things, you know, there is loopholes and there is things that that happen, and I think we did it right. But if there is some, you know, some problems coming out of your discussion, we'll deal with it then. But
so you're gonna get a report about my report?
yeah, we'll have to give them a chance to put together a report back to us about some of the comments you made, because we just worked on the report that we had, and we were comfortable with the decision we made that day. So that being said, if there's some things, some errors, we'll give them a chance to look at that. And
That's all. Thank you very much.
okay,
Thanks, Mr.
all right. Okay, so for today, I'll look for a motion that we receive the delegation and we refer the comments to staff. Moved by Councillor Clements, second by Councillor Doherty. All in favor? Very good. All right, so I'm going to do staff report for information. I will take a 5-minute break. So staff report for information here. We had a report from the treasurer, and it's with regards to the budget survey and some good things in there to help us prepare for our part of the budget. So
Excuse me, if I may, Mr. Mayor, through you, I just, while we're in the treasurer's report, if we could just get some clarity around the article that's in the rail, because it says the treasurer for the operating budget, he asked the council to consider a 1% tax levy increase in 2000. And I jumped on it and didn't see the need to provide percentage points. It's not even close to what was discussed at council, because if somebody wanted to increase or keep the tax increase at 1%, I wouldn't have been creating a motion to have it done. I would have probably said that's a great idea. Mm-hmm. So I think it needs clarity, is that he wanted an indication from council a percentage range. That's what the motion was. And I said, no, it's operating expenses, and let's go without it. And it it's just another way of looking at the budget process, and obviously council approved it. So just a matter of clarity, because we do have several councils running at large, and we just want to bring them up to date as to exactly what it actually says. So thank you.
Okay. All right, so thank you for the clarification there. So for today, this report from the treasurer is a report for information. If there's any other questions, now's the time. If not, I'm open to receive the report.
A question on it, are we going to discuss the actual survey in a closed session?
Bob, did that fall into the closed surveys of public?
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, to Councillor Doherty, there are no plans to discuss the survey in closed session. The survey is here and summarized in the report if council wishes to discuss it today.
Through a follow-up, Mr. Mayor, I took the liberty of asking for the information of what actual responses were. And it would, if it's going to be discussed, it would need to be discussed, I think, in closed, because there's some indications of things in there. There's going to bring names out, so, and that's one of the criteria, I believe. So anyway, it's up to council, but
So as we move through our part of the budget, if there is some things there that you feel that should be enclosed, like separate items, like we can't take the whole sales survey into a closed session, but if there's an item in there that you want to see put in there, Bob can help to see it.
oh, I don't want to see it. I've already seen it, Mr. Mayor. I was wondering if we're prepared to deal with the comments received on the survey. That was really, if we aren't, that's fine.
Well, we will when we do our part of the budget. We're going to look at this and try and incorporate as much as we can, but if there's something in there. Councillor Flagler?
Through you, Mayor Martin. The question number 2, you have different respondents. So you have a township, a village, and a township village. Could you please explain that?
And that's the thing, our treasurer, do you have to answer that?
So through you, Mayor Martin, the question is, which ward of the township do you reside or own property? Select all that apply. It is possible that they own property in both wards.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
you. Okay.
Okay, so for today, if we can get a motion to receive this information. Would like Deputy Mayor Webb, seconder, Councillor Clement. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, so maybe we can take a 5-minute break before we get into the staff reports with follow-up action, if that's okay. I'll look for a motion that we take a recess till 11 o'clock. Moved by Councillor Doherty, second by Deputy Mayor Webb. All in favor? Carried. All right, welcome back. So I'll look for a motion that we resume the meeting. Moved by Councillor Clement. Seconder. Councillor Doherty. All in favor? And that's carried. So we're going to move into staff reports with follow-up action. First item here is the RFP for the garbage collection came back. Lots of information there. Anyways, there's options here is probably to receive, and it's quite high. So council has a different idea. It's Councillor Flagler, go ahead.
Yes, the amounts that they're charging for us, is that for the whole like the township as well as the village? Because I thought we just did village pickup with garbage and stuff.
This was to check for a price for the whole township.
Right, so is the township, do they realize that that is what we are doing? Because I don't think anyone in the township wants garbage pickup. So,
Well, there's a mix there. There's a lot in the township too, but at the price here, I think the other side of it here is it's so expensive that I don't know where we would find the money for that anyways. Like the price right now is 400,000 or 450,000 for what we have right now.
that's right.
Without garbage pickup, just using the transfer stations. To go to this here, you're looking, there's a mix out there. There's people that live in the township a lot would love to see it, but you know, on the waterfront, it's a challenge, right? All the private roads and things like that. That's why the price reflects that. So personally, my recommendation today would be just to receive this and I think it's out of our ballpark. So personally, that's just my comments on here. I'll open it up.
Just for clarification further to that, if we did go to the garbage pickup in the township, all of the waste sites would remain open? Or would we be looking at downsizing or?
They would, that would, yeah, go ahead.
So through you, Mayor Martin, currently the transfer stations would have to remain operational for recycling purposes. If there's an alternative to the recycling option, we could ultimately close some of those transfer stations.
And everything's so upside down with the recycling and things like that right now until 2026. It's kind of probably the timing is terrible to do this, but.
Well, my point would be, through Mr. Mayor, in terms of it, we're always gonna need a transfer station, right? Because even if we have garbage pickup, like what I'm thinking about, there's gonna be large items, couches, whatnot, that are still gonna need to go somewhere.
Oh, yeah.
So this is a completely new added on top cost. This isn't a cost whereby we're gonna do this and we're gonna save money. Otherwise, I see this as a strictly on top fresh cost, right?
Not totally, because you would probably like the 6th line, like say Norwood, they're only open 2 days a week, like you say, it would only be open maybe Wednesday, like they're Wednesday and Saturday. So you would basically, you could close them all, except you would have to have, like you say, you would have to have one for those times. So it would be drastically reduced, but it's still pretty high.
Okay, oh, just thank you for that.
Councilor Doherty?
Well, we wouldn't get around the garbage in the village. It's still there, so it's 51.
Yeah.
We have some costs that we have to have regularly for the ones that we've already closed. So I would think it would be netting around what? 600,000, which becomes a line item, and around what, 7.5%, 8% increase in the taxes. So you may want to make a motion to have that approved, but I don't want an 8% on top of the 1% that the treasurer would be 9.
He's only recommended.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying that we receive it and like I said, but whatever, you make the motion, but yeah, no, there's no way we can do it. So however you want to word it.
So could I make the motion to we accept this information, but like we're looking at the blue boxes coming up too at some point. So why don't we
That's a
defer
total,
this?
yeah.
Yeah, until we're gonna deal with it all later.
Yeah, like, but that would be another different
Yeah,
quote too.
exactly.
So right now, this RFP is, I think, how do you want to word it, Bob, that it's like it's out of our reach in there.
Yeah, just receive for information.
So for today, it's just received for information. So
Yeah,
you're moving
yeah,
that,
to receive.
moved by deputy and seconder. Councilor Blackton, all in favor? That's carried. Okay. The next item here is request for proposal appraiser. Travis?
Good morning, Mr. Mayor, members of council. So the report as directed by council, we went out with an RFP BLD 2024-01 to retain an appraiser to act on behalf of the municipality for the sale of on-open road allowances municipal properties. We did only receive one bid from Antec Appraisers, so it's a recommendation of staff and their fees are outlined in here. The council provide approval for staff to award the request for the RFP appraisal services to Antec Appraisal Group.
Thank you for the report, Travis. Never like it when we only get one bid. So with that, have we looked around? Is this a competitive number in terms of, like, have we checked with other places?
I believe that's
competitive. That's okay. Thank you.
Okay. Motion to approve. Okay, by Deputy Mayor Webb, that we approve the recommendation, second by Councilor Dorian. All in favor? Carries. Item sewage systems.
the report is for building permit fees in preparation of us taking over the enforcement of sewage systems under Part 8 of the building code this November. So we provided a draft draft schedule of fees. The fees that we provided, we've simply just copied the fees that Peterborough Public Health is using right now. Go through them quickly if you want. So there's one change on here that we proposed on page 1 of the Schedule A. And that's the transfer of permit fee. Right now, we have it as $100. Peterborough Public Health has been charging $375, and there is a fair bit of work that goes into that. So we're proposing to change that to $375. We've added an alternative solution at 1,000. So an alternative solution, the code lays out prescriptive methods to gain compliance. If somebody wanted to provide a alternative solution to comply with the objectives and functional statements, it's an extensive review. So we've added a fee of $1,000. And on page 2, it's the bottom 11 items. So fees for class 4, class 5, class 3, class 2 sewage systems. Mandatory inspections. So that's just for our source water protection area. We have a few sewage systems within the source water protection area that Peterborough Public Health has done those services and inspections. So we've got a fee shown for that. And then our existing sewage system review or change of use, and then comments on minor variances, official plan, zone amendments as well. So a fee of $250 if we have to do a site visit. If it's simply reviewing it in-house here as paper copies, we charge a service on them. And then of course we'd have to comment on severances and plans of subdivisions, etc. Council has comments on that. Happy to answer them if we can. Otherwise, just looking to put it the proper notices under the building code as required under the Building Code Act and Building Code, and bring a report to the second meeting in September.
Through I did hear you right. There's no change to what Peterborough Health was charging before.
No, we have copies.
Exactly the same.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Do we have a recommendation there or? Moved by Councillor Clement to go with the staff recommendation. Seconded. Councillor Doherty. Any other questions? All in favor? And that's the variance.
If I may ask the question, how are we coming along with the input of the?
So through Mr. Mayor,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to catch you off.
no, that's good. Deborah's on track for getting the majority of them in there. The ones that we knew we would have difficulty dealing with are the ones that are the older ones that were issued without a roll number, etc. It's a lot concession, name, and installer's name. So she's getting through all the easy ones, and then she has those highlighted, and we'll go back through them at the end. If for some reason she didn't get through all of them on her contract, that's okay, as they come up with it.
Okay, but thanks.
We're in good shape.
Okay. Thank you, Travis. Thanks. The next item on here is the terms of reference for Peterborough County OPP attachment board.
Through you, Mayor Martin, the new Peterborough County OPP Detachment Board is in its formation stages, and part of that formation process is to establish your terms of reference. So all the member townships have worked together, all the member municipalities, and put together terms of reference which must be approved by each council. So today, those terms of reference is presented for council approval.
All right, then. So been a long time coming. So,
Still coming.
yeah. So anyway, so the recommendation here is that is before you, so your thoughts? Yeah, so Deputy Mayor Webb is moving the recommendation. Second by Councillor Clement. Any questions, comments? All in favor? And that's carried. Okay. The next item on here is agreement with Rural Links with regards to the water tower installation.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, the township has been approached by Rural Links to establish a wireless site on top of the water tower. Back at the May 7th regular council meeting, council directed that staff have a proper legal agreement established for this purpose. So this agreement is now presented for council approval.
Council's thoughts here.
Councilor Doherty. Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we defer this until an outstanding matter has been resolved with rulings, and then maybe consider it at our next meeting or.
Okay. All right, then. So a motion to defer until we clear up an outstanding matter with another application with second by Deputy Mayor Webb. All in favor? And that's carried. Okay. Next item, meeting with electoral ward system.
Through you, Mayor Martin, this report presents a motion with respect to the electoral ward system. Council has indicated a desire to review the electoral ward system. A public consultation process has been undertaken. There was a survey issued with the first tax bill mailing of the year with 649 respondents, a record being received. There was also 2 public meetings held, and a majority of all the respondents, both at the public meetings and by the survey, have indicated that they desire a change to the system. So this report presents a motion that the electoral ward system be dissolved and that the positions of mayor, deputy mayor, and 3 council members be elected at large. And there's one correction to the motion. The bylaw would be brought forward exactly 2 months from today on October the 15th.
Okay, so this is something that comes up pretty well every term. We did do the survey. There was a good response to it. And it did come up in the last election. So there was a lot of input, and I'm just going to open it up to council here. What's your thoughts here on the recommendation?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, at the last meeting, an evening meeting, Deputy Mayor Webb said to the folks, please, particularly in town, to give us a call with their voice. I just wondered if we heard any calls on it, because you made it very clear they could and should contact us. I was just wondering if we had any. I've got a couple, but mine wouldn't be considered village, I guess.
Okay,
Received none.
I didn't get any from the village, but
Okay, thank you.
Just from the same people I've received it from before.
okay. So there is a recommendation here, and that is that we change things. Short and sweet. So what are your thoughts?
So through you, Mayor Martin, and we all agreed at the 2 years ago that we felt should be coming, so I would like to make a motion to pass this.
So it's moved by Councillor Clement that we move the recommendation from the survey.
I'm second with a comment.
Yeah.
Just that I think this is, I don't know, I think the town seeker set out since amalgamation in 90. I understand there's people here that are used to this, but to Councillor Clement's point, moving forward, what we've heard from many members of the community is they want to be seen as all one, and to have us broken into different groups further to that. I did look into, there's suggestions on here in terms of adapting the ward boundaries. The cost and time and effort to do that, I don't think people, until you kind of get around municipal government, understand that, like I said, the cost and the time, and there's no guarantee that we're going to be any further ahead than where we are now. So in the idea of trying, as I said, to bring the community together, I think this is a good step. Obviously there's some people that probably will still have their noses out of joint, but over time we'll get over it and we'll move ahead as one community.
Okay. Thank you. So we have a mover and a seconder. Any other comments or questions? Go ahead, Councillor Flagler.
Through you, Mayor Martin, just one comment, and I agree with what you're saying, Hart. But I would like to see where the village and the township, they do get along. I know that, but when we're doing projects, the majority of them are all done outside of the township, and I would like to see a more equal approach. So, you know, if something needs to be done in town, not just picking outside of town all the time or whatever. The town, it needs a lot of help, and we do need to make sure that we're doing our efforts equally as the whole town, including township. We do a lot of work on the roads outside of town. Again, King Street was on our budget, and King Street is not being done. And I don't understand that why, but that's okay. Do you kind of understand what I'm trying to get at? Like, we just need to make sure that the town is included in our budgets every year,
So I think,
not just outside roads and that's all I'm saying.
I hear you, and I think that's kind of to go along with what Deputy Mayor Webb said about we're all in this together kind of thing. There is a lot going on in town, and I think if you see a summary at the end of the year, especially this year, George Street's gonna blow it off the map, that there's a lot of money and a lot of work happening in town that's not happening in the township. Long overdue, totally agreed, but we're getting there, and I think working together, like you're saying, and like the Deputy Mayor is saying, I think it's showing that we are doing a lot, and it's a pretty good balance, I think, at the end of the year when you look at it. Like, some of them little things in the township look like a lot, but they're a lot. Anything in the village is expensive because of the water and sewer. So I think you'd be pleasantly surprised, and maybe that's something at the end of the year we'll get a summary of, you know, the work that happened this year, and I think it'll be pretty impressive. So.
Thank you, Mayor Martin, and yes, balance is the word I guess I should have used for that. Thank you.
Okay. All right, so the recommendation in here is before you, and we have a mover and a seconder. There's no other questions, all in favor? And that's carried.
That will be coming to the September 17th.
October 15th,
October, okay, thank
to
you.
allow for advertising
Yep,
time.
thank you.
Okay, so the next item on here is the mandatory connection to the sewer system. Now, this is something that's at our last meeting, because there was such a gap and we wanted to get things moving here. We were kind of behind the 8 ball, and we just had to make a decision to get things. So we didn't stop construction, which is already running late. So we do have a recommendation here, and I'm just going to open it up to council what your thoughts are here on with regards to this. We said at the last meeting that we'll keep working on this to come up with a solution, and you know, it's work in progress here. So what's your thoughts on this recommendation?
Through you, Mayor Martin. So one of the things should be mandatory is new buildings. New buildings definitely be mandatory. Existing buildings, I would like to see it go to the property line. And then if they agree and they want to participate, then they will have to pay if they agree to participate. But otherwise, I think existing buildings would go to the property line.
Yeah, so the part that the town pays already, like on all the other roads that we've done, water and sewer, if there's where it happened on some of these roads, maybe the water hookup is 50 years old. And even right now, if they have a water leak and it's on the property side, they pay for that, and that won't be changing. It's this sump pump hookup that we were putting into the mix on the last one. And I think we can still work on kind of like Union Street. We didn't make it mandatory over there. It was optional, and nobody took advantage of it. That being said, I think we can work on, we do have a capacity problem over at the transfer station. So someday it's going to cost the village a lot of money, whether we have to do some repairs over there. Like the expansion, it's a water user pay system. So there's a cost that's gonna come forward here if we don't deal with the capacity. That being said, there is other options here, and I think if we work together, we can, this little extra piece that we added on Union Street, it's the only other street that has these things. If they're there, maybe there's an option that we can encourage people to hook up to them. It would be really nice to know how many have sump pumps, because that's the main concern here is groundwater. It's not the the sewer side of it, and when we did it years ago, we had even, because you can see the reference in here, even some of our stores had water cooled freezers that were draining into the sewer system. We fixed all that stuff. So as we move forward and keep continuing, we did hear during the presentation on the George Street construction, we may see a pleasantly surprising thing just by dealing with the sewers with infiltration. George Street could help us alone just with the sewers. But the other pieces we still need to deal with, and maybe we can come up with a plan if the connections are there. I think our thoughts were to try and encourage people to connect, but yeah, the mandatory part for a new build should be there. As far as the construction work, I think there's other options we can deal with, and even to encourage them on Union to hook up too. Like there's a lot of water on Union Street that's not getting addressed. So maybe we need to do where those connections are. Maybe we can come up with a plan as a group to encourage hookup separately from the construction. That's just my thoughts. But okay.
Through you, Mayor Martin. I have received many emails regarding the mandatory hookup to the, what are we calling it? Stormwater.
Yeah.
I guess most residents on George Street are having difficult times and would prefer not to hook up to this water system. So my question is this a mandatory thing from the government? Do you have to have your white water hooked up to a certain pipe? And number two, is there two pipes? Like, where is this stormwater going from our streets? Is that pipe going to the lagoon, or is it going, where does it go?
So it's a complicated thing, but the stormwater goes to, I think it goes to Plateau Creek.
Yes, yeah.
So any of your sewers that are installed goes through to Plateau Creek eventually.
Okay, so our rainwater goes to Plateau Creek.
Well, the ones that
So
are.
why is the rainwater and the runoffs increasing our INTs? I'm not understanding that.
So I'll just do the best, but you want.
No, go ahead. No, you go ahead. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just. So all it is, so if you see people with a black, I'm just gonna use sump pumps for an example.
Okay.
Like, in the township, you see black pipes running across the front lawn. They have a sump pump in the basement and it's running out to the grass. In town, I see some do run across sidewalks, which isn't good, but there is, some of them run to the ground. But when we did the check years ago, there was some that had it connected to the sewer connection in their basement. So the water from their sump pump was going into the sewer, which is costing us money to treat it. So at that time, we tried to fix it. This is a solution that came up in the last construction and we incorporated into this construction. The problem we have is there's no incentive to hook up to it because it's costly. But that being said, I'm hoping that we can come up with a solution in the future here that we can maybe encourage hookup, but not mandatory.
And further to that, it's somewhat of an environmental issue because our well 1 and 4 are over here at the park. So if you have people, to the mayor's point, just running, we don't know what, into their lawn or across the sidewalk, that's eventually going to make it into well 1 and 4, which is where our drinking water comes from, right? So, I mean, that's where we're coming from in terms of trying to clean it up. But to the mayor's point, yes, obviously we realized that probably making it mandatory isn't the greatest way, and we can walk that back and look at other options in terms of how to do this. But in terms of just letting the public know, the reason for the impetus of this is that they said there's a potential environmental issue here of people pumping stuff either into their backyard or into the groundwater in a well intake area, which expands out probably 100 meters from that building at the park in a circular direction.
So
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the macro issue is that we have a capacity issue.
Yeah.
And that's a $5.5 million problem. That's going to be shared by HBM. Any shortfall if we don't get a grant. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. So for the mandatory part, that's the part that I think is, I do think there's some options here because we do need to get these things connected. And maybe during the budget process, we can come up with.
What are those? Sorry, what are those options?
Well, something I suggested, and I don't have it on the agenda for today, but we have grants out there for private roads. We have grants for environmental. Maybe there's a way of looking at those grants and maybe shrinking them a little bit and making another grant that would encourage, if a hookup is $2,000, I'm going to use a round number here just to do a storm hookup from the sump pump. If it's a couple $1,000 for a private person to get it done, we can maybe offer and get 4 or 5 houses a year done over the next little while. Like there's options. I'm just saying that's council's decision, but I'm saying we do have things within that we can help homeowners get these things, especially on existing. Just a thought, and I'm just throwing it out there. That's why I didn't really want to talk about it, but in the future, I was going to bring it up at budget that there might be things here that we can do as a council to encourage people to hook up to these hookups.
In your thought process, if I have to put in a new sewer system and a septic tank, that would be a grant application as well from somebody.
You can bring that into the discussion then.
Oh, I don't know. Was that part of because what we're saying is that people in town can't afford the hookup, right? In essence, that's what we're saying. I just was curious what your
people in the township, if they got a $6,000 bill handed to them, it's a tough thing to handle. So this is just a thing. It's a new thing that we're doing here. We didn't even have to put the pipes in the ground. We were just looking at trying to help with our capacity over there, and we still are trying to help it. And it might help in the future. And I just say, if we put our heads together and work together here, we might be able to come up with something that'll work for everyone. Environmentally, that environmental grant for helping with waterfront. You know what, if somebody's septic is leaking in there, maybe there's a creative application going to come in to help with their septic system to get $1,500 for that. I don't know. That'll be discussion in budget. And that's why I don't really want to talk about it today. I'm just saying that this mandatory thing on a new build, we didn't even have to put those things in the ground. We could just leave them out of there and just deal with it. But we looked at it in the last council for Union Street I think that might have been the last street we did. I'm not sure. And then this street here, we're looking, if we put them in there, for what the cost is to have that pipe down there, we might be able to help ourselves in the future to take care of groundwater that's coming into the houses. And there's a lot of it in some areas of Havelock. So,
okay, so through you, Mayor Martin. So you just said the new pipe that goes down there, and that's without people being hooked up. It's still gonna help the lagoon capacity?
From the report from the construction, we are hoping that with that new sewer pipe, if we could do all the sewer pipes in the whole village, we wouldn't have any infiltration and we would have good things. But right now, just even doing that section of George Street right out to there will be a difference. There will be a difference of infiltration.
Okay, and that's without.
Yeah, without those things.
Without the owners hooking up to them.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But this is just another bonus thing. If we could get some of that other water into the creek instead of into the treatment.
Well, any sump pump that's hooked up to the sewer system shouldn't be anyway.
And that's maybe an
That's all
education thing. Again, maybe it's time, lots of turnover here. Maybe we need to start, broadcasting that more. Because some people may not realize that pipe that's draining into the sewer is costing us all money.
Yeah, and may I make a suggestion that a notice go out in the water bill explaining that?
Mhm.
Because every person in town receives a water bill, and then they can at least read it and see what's gonna be coming down the pipeline, right?
That's a good idea.
Yep.
So the recommendation here would be that we, you want to read the recommendation, Bob, with the mandatory? That's my recommendation.
Manager, get rid of the mandatory word, please.
Kathy can, if you.
So go ahead, Bob. I recommended that we change this one, but in the new builds, it has to say mandatory and new builds.
Yeah.
That's the only place the mandatory is new builds. Or at this point anyways, we could do something.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the question is that would be for infilling or a subdivision or?
Yes.
Everything new. Everything new.
We have that now, Smith Drive's on that.
Is it mandatory now, Nate? I didn't realize
I
that.
haven't looked at that one, but it could be, should be.
Well, I hope, I just hope it's a new subdivision.
Well, I don't know.
Because it's a 2000, we're talking about something here that we're not going to do. It was a 2007 bylaw that was put in place. So
Some of our streets don't have sewer, so if it's a new build on there, like if capable, I guess has to be in there too, because some of our roads don't have sewer in them. So like storm sewers. Some of them are still the old pipe in the ground. So but it should be, any new build should, if possible.
what do you mean, if possible?
If we have a storm sewer there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just for clarification, so I know we're trying to go through the motion here, but what I'm suggesting is we make a motion to change it from mandatory to voluntary. And then we can work out some of these other details by the next meeting and then repass the bylaw then.
Yes, because we need to upgrade our plot.
Well, yeah, and I don't want to do it here in 2 or 3 minutes, right? When there's obviously a number of issues that probably staff know more about than us, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so the motion would be to remove mandatory and bring back. Okay, so moved by Kathy, second by Deputy Mayor. Any other questions or comments?
Recorded vote, please.
Okay, recorded vote. Okay.
Through you, Mayor Martin, the motion is moved by Councillor Clement, seconded by Deputy Mayor Webb, that the hookups to the sanitary and storm sewer systems be voluntary during the George Street reconstruction phase. And there was a recorded vote requested by Councillor Doherty. So we'll start with Councillor Doherty.
No.
No. Councillor Flagg.
Yes.
Mayor Martin.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Webb.
Yes.
And Councillor Clement.
Yes.
The motion is carried 4 votes to 1.
All right. So our next item on here, correspondence action items. And the first item there has been, it could have been removed because they did have lack of volunteers, helping with that a little bit. And, yeah, there's lack of volunteers, so the soapbox survey, that won't need to be dealt with, so. Next item is town hall access. Letter sent from Ken Pierce.
Through you, Mayor Martin, this letter is from Mr. Ken Pierce, requesting continued 24/7 access to Old Town Hall regarding the storage of used medical equipment.
So the days of just going into our buildings unattended without staff there with you are over. And so this year it's just something that been coming for a while, and it's been dealt with that they have to contact staff. But I think, is it out of, we were recommending that, really it probably shouldn't even be in there.
Totally up to council if you wish to make that recommendation.
Sorry, Mayor Martin, can I make some comments, please? Because I did a little inventory on this. So in Peterborough, one of the people there have it out of their garage, and it's totally, and you have to call them. Well, Mimi went through a church, so they stayed away from the township for liability purposes by appointment only. So they don't do it in the middle of the night or whatever. So I think we need to ask them to possibly look at relocating it to a different facility. Again, liability for us. I think we need to look at that.
Well, I think it says in there in this presentation that the Lions don't want to take on the project because it's an insurance liability. So I think that pretty much speaks to the situation. I know Ken might get calls in the middle of the night or something, but the alternative is to put in a place where they can do it because we have the risk. Thank you.
So the motion would have to say that we would like to remove the stuff from the town hall and find an alternate site that we can accommodate them. Unless you have a better, I'm just thinking out loud here. I'm just,
But
it's still in there.
The thing is, they want a key. And the answer is, no, we've changed our policy and procedures that we want. Now, should they elect to take the stuff and put it in another site where they can gain access would be a great idea. But are we telling them they have to do it? Is that going to be one of the mandatory things or is that going to be a voluntary thing? I just kind of confused with the recommendation.
So through, because of liability, if the Lions don't want the liability and we're going to try to fix the town hall, do we not need to look at liability also? Like, why are we having them in there? Why aren't they, as all the other places around, either operate out of their own garage?
Did I say that they should? I said, I think that he's telling himself the same. He's saying the Lions doesn't want to take it on because it's liability. What would make them think that a municipality would want to take on the same liability? And rather, are you going to make it mandatory or a suggestion? That was really the question. Okay.
Well, I think with cleaning it up, we need to do something. I think we need to ask them to find an alternative location. Sorry.
So maybe this discussion for another day. For today's motion, though, they will not get a key and they can deal with staff if they need to get in there. I guess that's the easiest way right now, but.
Or I think I'm hearing a consensus kind of here about in terms of concerns around insurance and other things like that. And I accept Councillor Doherty's point. Obviously, we've been letting them do this for a while, so I don't want to just go in and say, get your stuff out of there, especially when it's medical equipment and things like that that could be used in the community. Is there a way we can let them know that the decision's been made here and maybe give them a time frame in terms of, you know, and work with them in terms of that? So, you know.
End of the year.
Well, yeah, I'll leave that up to staff and the rest of council, but I mean, just give them a time frame. We can make them aware of that. Just, you know, maybe send them a copy of this letter back in terms of your own club doesn't want to take you on, like why, you know, we really can't as a municipality, especially after knowing that, like, so.
But we're taking on a holistic approach to our key business.
Exactly.
And we're not treating them any differently than we are anyone else. We're just saying is, this is the policy, and unfortunately, we can't for the liability reasons. And if you want access 24/7, perhaps an alternate location.
And maybe we or a staff, one of our members knows somewhere where they could find, you know, and to Kathy's point, maybe there's an old church here in the community or somebody's got other space in the community and they can make Ralph and Ken aware of that space and we can do it that way. So
We'll definitely work with them, but like,
For sure.
I don't mean them to be at the door tomorrow. I just think that we need,
So what do you want the motion to say then?
well, how would you? All
you
right,
know,
go ahead.
so motion that we inform Ralph and Ken that they will know in the future. I don't think you might have to set that date at some date in the future here. They'll no longer be allowed, you know,
The story.
to store things on town property, I guess, for just said reasons, for possible future liability reasons.
It's illegal what they're doing.
That's,
Can't do that.
I don't, not.
That's why they do it out of their garages and churches and stuff.
Okay, so what's the motion, Bob? Yeah.
Through you, Mayor Martin. So the motion is that 24/7 access will not be permitted. Access will only be permitted with the accompaniment of staff during working hours. And also that the volunteers be informed that an alternate location should be found at a date to be determined.
Yeah, okay.
Yep. Okay, seconder for that. Second by Councillor Clement. Questions, comments? All in favor? And that's carried. Okay, So the next item on here is the Cordova Rec Association's first annual classic car show. So they're having that on August 24th. They need your thoughts. It's just it. Recognize.
Through you, Mayor Martin, they're asking council to approve the donation of 1 or 2 ice time rentals for the upcoming season as raffle prizes.
Oh, that's kind of cool.
Just to Councilor Doherty.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, did we charge ice rentals for the Cordova Arena?
No, they're just.
I think they mean the rink. Oh,
Yeah, I think they,
I would think they mean
At the
the
community center.
but I think what it's a raffle.
It's a prize to be given away.
So could,
So they're not using that space per se. They're gonna give it to, be like if you put your name in on a raffle and you won an hour.
Well, I'm kind of getting the picture here, but I was confused whether it was the Cordova rink they were renting because
No.
that is the Cordova Mines Recreation Association that's applying. They're talking about Havelock. Fine, I can now clarify. Thank you.
We haven't set ice rental rates on uncovered buildings yet.
Well, I guess that was what I was kind of confused as to they were talking about because now we're getting new boards and we got a new floor and thing. I was just trying to bring myself up to see. Sorry if I'm slowing the group down. I'll apologize. Carry on.
Yeah, so they're looking for a couple hours ice rental is, there's no.
I'll just make a motion that, what do they want, 2?
2 rentals.
2.
So moved by Deputy Mayor Webb, second by Councillor Flagler. All in favor? That's carried. Okay. Now, sorry, that's it for action items. So next item on here is January refunds redacted. I just got that put on there so people can see there is still letters coming in. The big thing here is that people need to understand that it's a private function. Township isn't involved in it. We feel for their not getting the refunds. That being said, hopefully if there's a sale of the property, it's supposed to be taken care of then. So we'll just leave it at that. Go ahead.
After you, Mr. Mayor, I think we should articulate this similar to what the Lions did for Peterborough Housing. Make it crystal clear that this is not a township, a municipality. This is a private enterprise. And I know we've done that numerous times and but I mean, that was a well done explanation that was given and I think something, just my thoughts. Thank you.
Yeah, so how can we get the word out? Like we can answer this person, but I mean, how do you cover a bigger area? Like we just need to, whether we have a banner on our website or whatever, but this is not, the Jamboree isn't a township function and anything with regards to the refund.
Sorry, do we get a lot of correspondence about this or is this like a one-off?
No, this one, and I had said to the owners that that's the first one I've had in a year, but I was getting a lot of them.
Then I don't think we need to, if it's one a year, then.
Yeah, because I thought, yeah, hearing the feedback, we're getting kind of on a weekly basis.
It's starting to go down. But,
Thanks.
So, so it's just to receive more information for today. I just, anything that comes to me, I usually forward it over to Bob so everybody sees it. So, so moved by Councillor Doherty that we received, second by Councillor Clement, all in favor? That's carried. Great, then. Any liaison reports? If you have anyone from the county.
County council was kind of quick. We're summer mode here, but one thing relevant to HBM, we did approve a tender for the Plato Creek Bridge rehabilitation on the 6th line. So that went through for 329,000 plus HST. And I apologize, Jim, do you remember, did we get a date on when? I don't know if it's this fall.
Down.
Anyways.
I thought the issue is something that the road was going to be closed and there's something come out on some sort of social media. So they issued that before it was approved.
Oh, yeah, no, I don't know if it's gonna be closed or not.
Hello, rest of the group involved here.
So, I'm just trying to get your.
We're trying to figure it out. Because there was discussion around that. And I think that I'll have to go back and get clarification for you, but I think there's discussion about it being closed for 8 hours during one day or two while they.
Well, no, I just remember it being on. So
Yeah.
I'm just.
And I think what that relates to is, I could be wrong on this too, but there's bridge rehab being done, and I think there's a bit more work being done away from the bridge on the edges.
On the
They've
guardrail.
expanded,
The
yeah,
guardrail has to be
they
extended.
expanded the guardrail or whatever, so I think that's where some of this might come in. There was extra work there that wasn't planned for originally, so.
So it's a county bridge, so it's coming through the county, that's the reason, because of the width.
I don't really care whether it's coming through the
You do if you
provincial
have to pay for
government
it.
is the fact is, well, the fact is they issued something saying that it was going to be closed. Now we find out it's just being approved. That's all I'm saying. Because I don't know whether it's a school bus route because I don't ride the school bus much anymore.
Yeah.
So it's coming to September, which creates a problem for us in the township, even though it's a county issue, it reflects on them. So just a point.
Yeah.
Like.
So the bonus is that the cost is covered by the county. One of the people tried to get a motion going that any of these bridges that don't touch county roads, when they're brought up to a standard, should be given back to the township so that we don't have to pay for them at the county. It was defeated, but yeah, that's the other part of these things.
Sorry, just through you, I found it in the report. So the original completion date was supposed to be August 31st, 2024, and that's been since bumped back to September 30th. So all that work should be completed. I'll have to get you information on the road closure, but no, thank you for bringing that up because that was mentioned. I just don't. There was discussion around it, so I don't know if.
We get pretty used to that. The people we're dealing with.
Yeah. All right then, and the next item on here was a municipal brief from Pro Valley Conservation for you to read. And with that, I look for a motion that we receive the action item or the reports from council. So moved by Deputy Mayor Webb, second by Councillor Clement, all in favor. And that's carried. All right, so we don't have any written notice of motion before us. Is there any oral notice of motion? Seeing none. Moving to other business. Up.
Yes, through you, Mayor Martin, we have some calendar items here. Our practice consultant has suggested our next strategic plan session be virtual, September the 10th, 1 o'clock to 3:30. This is put forward to make sure that date works for all of council and that we can have a special council meeting that day.
For you, Mayor Martin, is that the EMOC conference? Is that a Wednesday?
That's Monday.
It's a Monday.
Is it a Monday?
I think.
Oh, wait a minute. And
Tenth is a Tuesday.
A Thursday? So, yeah, sometimes like Monday, Tuesday.
so it's.
We're okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So.
So that date works for everyone. It's Tuesday, September the 10th, 1 week following our first regular meeting in September.
Motion to go with that date, moved by Deputy Mayor Webb, second Councillor Clement, all in favor, and that's carried. Next item, Bob. Oh, sorry, go
Sorry,
ahead.
just one question. We're coming here for that meeting because it says virtual.
Yes, it'll be here in the council chamber, but
She'll
the
be on
praxis will be on the screen.
Okay, all right, thank you.
So item number 2 is just for council's information. We will discuss budget priorities at the first regular council meeting in September. I think I have that date wrong.
Yes.
Having issues with dates today.
We knew what you meant.
I know, you know what I meant. September 3rd, sorry, September 3rd. And the last item is the facilities tour. If we can nail down a date for that. Or we can put it off and wait to hear from everyone.
We had time in the next 2 weeks.
Next week, but oh no, we can't because it's AMO's on, so. That's why there's nothing on next week. It's
But
AMO.
what day are you going? What days are you going?
Sunday to
Wednesday.
Tuesday, isn't it?
Tuesday or Wednesday.
Yeah, Tuesday.
So next
Thursday,
Friday.
Friday. I'm just saying, once we get
Yeah.
into September,
Yeah.
it's then, at least for myself, it gets here. Like I'm better off to do this in the next 2 weeks here in the summertime. If we could get a day or.
Yeah, like it shouldn't take, half a day or whatever. but,
Well, we kind of need it for budget too.
Yeah,
Oh, that's, yeah.
but what about
I would think, but maybe not.
next Thursday or Friday? Does that work for anyone or?
What days are those?
August 22nd or 23rd?
Friday's better for me, but.
Me too, because I've got an appointment in Peterborough on the
Are
22nd.
you here then or no?
No, I babysit. That's okay. Just
Oh.
make your date and I'll fix it. No
What
worries.
days are you off for me?
Next week? None.
Oh, are you, put it this way, are you better till in September then?
I'm not better on anything. Just
No.
pick a day. Pick a day, it doesn't matter. I can rearrange it.
Well, the following week is available too.
You guys just pick a day and tell me. when it is.
Yeah, pick a day.
So,
If it's next Friday, it's next Friday.
that's right.
Next Friday,
Yeah,
So that would
whatever.
be what?
August 23rd. Okay.
Sure.
Maybe we could get West Kosh on,
Go visit our lady.
Okay, all right then.
We'll start at 9 or 9:30. I'll send an email. We'll confirm all that. It'll be in the morning,
And 23rd, correct?
August 23rd, Friday.
August.
Okay, so then it goes.
Yep, I'll send it in.
Okay.
All right then. So that's it for business. Next on here is the bylaws, so we're going to close, so.
First one is the zoning bylaw amendment. Let's discuss.
Can we do them all?
No.
Can you read them?
We
No. Oh, no, because one's got a, yeah, okay. So the first one is the zoning bylaw amendment. Moved by Councilor Doherty, second by Deputy Mayor Webb. All in favor, carried. Next, next one here is the point boards and committees.
Yep, that's further to the Police Services Board.
Okay. Moved by Councilor Flagler. Second, Councilor Doherty, all in favor. And that's carried. Next is the rural links agreement. Deferred, so. So the next is the sanitary sewer connection. Advised. Yeah, I'll bring that back.
I'll bring that back. Deferred. Yep.
And hours of entry. Hours of entry was for the town hall. By Councilor Tiger, second by Councilor Clement, all in favor? That's carried. Okay, so that's all the bylaws for today. So we'll take a 5-minute recess and then come back. Short. Going to close. Meeting back to order. Okay, motion to resume the meeting. Moved by Deputy Mayor Webb, second by Councilor Doherty, all in favor? That's carried. Okay, I need a motion to go into closed session held under section 239(2)B for personal matters about identifiable individuals, including municipal or local board employees. Section 239(2)E for litigation or potential litigation, including matters before the administrative tribunal affecting the municipality, and section 239(2)F for advice that subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for the purpose. So, motion to go into close. Deputy Mayor Webb, Councilor Doherty, all in favor, and that's carried. Okay, so
well.
Okay. So, forum here.
Yeah, we still have 3 members.
Okay, so we're out in open. Is there any motions to come out of closed session?
No, we will summarize in the minutes that direction was provided to our solicitor pertaining to the matters in closed session.
All right then. So motion for the confirming bylaw, moved by Bev, second by Hart. All in favor?
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, and then motion to adjourn. Moved by Deputy Mayor Webb, second by Councillor Flagler, all in favor, and that's carried.